Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Good afternoon to people joining from India and other places. I hope for some of you it would be very early morning or it may be late evening for some of you. So, thank you everyone for joining us. Can you please confirm to me in chat if you could hear me okay? Can you all see me fine and can you hear me all okay? Yes, nice. Thanks, Chitresh, and welcome to this first section on BESA program. I have few people with me. I'll talk about what BESA program is and I'll let them introduce themselves. So we will quickly get started. Hopefully that more people would be able to join, and if you had faced any challenges in joining, something was not clear, let us know so that we could try to improve it for the next people who are planning to join. So we will quickly get started and discuss about that how this program would unfold and what we would be discussing throughout this particular session, which is the first week of it. And I'm really happy to be with you again. We had like a 3 months pause before we ended our last broadcast, but now hopefully we would continue for the next kind of three months, and we'll have lots and lots of sessions as we move forward. And we appreciate your support. Some of you may be coming up very early or having some personal commitment which you are keeping aside to join and learn. So thank you and appreciate that. And if you feel that we could improve this program in any ways, fashion, anything we can do differently, anything we could include, exclude to make your learning better, let us know. Until we get a feedback, we won't know that what we could have improved or what we could have done differently. So don't be shy, good or bad, whatever it is, please let us know. You could use LinkedIn channels to connect to us. You have email addresses, so you could connect from there. But let us know about feedback so that everyone gets the best out of this session which we are trying to run. And idea is only that we want to empower as many people with cloud technology so that you could find a better career or you could get higher into your existing career as we move forward. So this is batch 4, week 1, 8th July 2023, and we will keep on moving forward. I could see a lot of people who have joined previous batches and they are still here. So we always welcome people who are continually supporting us unconditionally. Thank you so much. And I will add more people into the stream so that they can introduce. So I have Prasad with me, I have Parna with me. I would add them to stream, and then we would be discussing about more things. So Prasad, welcome Prasad.
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is doing great. Welcome to the next batch of BESA session. As Ashish mentioned, we are excited here with the next session, and we welcome you all. Uh, so let's,
Thank you.
begin and learn as much as possible from each other.
Prasad, I forgot to introduce myself, like what you do on day-to-day basis. If you could quickly talk about that, so that it would give everyone idea, like, okay, what is your background and what motivates you to be here.
Sure. I'm a principal partner solutions architect at AWS, mainly focusing on Microsoft workloads. That's my day job, helping customers and partners migrate and modernize Microsoft workloads on AWS. Regarding how this mentoring journey started, is that when I joined AWS around 3.5 years ago, it's almost going to be 4 years now. A lot of people reached out to me. I was not coming from a cloud background. I started my career as a .NET developer, and I learned AWS during the interview process. It was during the interview that I took a Udemy course, learned it to do the assignment, and that's how I was able to crack AWS interview. So a lot of my colleagues reached out to me saying that how were you able to transition to cloud, and I started mentoring them 101. And then I thought there is an opportunity here, so I started doing it on a larger scale on the LinkedIn, and was doing in small batches like 20 people per batch, and I did it for 2 or 3 batches. That's when Ashish and other folks reached out to me saying that because they were also doing mentoring in their own capacity, so we all thought let's all combine our forces and see if we can scale it. And that's how BESA become a solutions architect, a free mentoring initiative by Amazonians started. And this is the fourth batch that we are running. So yeah, welcome all everyone again.
Thank you. And I would introduce myself. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself first. My name is Ashish. I am a technical trainer in AWS. I love training people, and that's why I'm into this profession. And I've been training people from long, long time. For AWS, it has been last 5 years, and develop lots of other resources. You can find them on LinkedIn, and I would keep on sharing additional resources. So you should be able to get more out of it. Now let me add Parna to stream. Parna, are you here? Let me quickly add you here. So here is Parna. Again, one of the very active member of BESA program who is helping us with lots and lots of things. Welcome, Parna.
Hey, hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you. So, I'm sure you're going to have 12 weeks of insightful learnings, both technical as well as behavioral. I too started my journey here in BESA right from 2022 when they launched the first program. And believe me, it's helped me so much professionally, personally, and hence I'm here now on the other side, and I can see the amount of hard work these people have put in. They are literally like go-to mentors for everything. I keep pinging them now also. I'm a technical trainer at AWS, and restarted my journey after several years. And I have gone through a very rough patch of learning, and I do understand how difficult it could be when you don't have enough resources, mentors, and help. And hence I want to give back. I'm a part of a lot of other communities, so I like to help people who are starting off on their journey or need some kind of assistance in how to go about their cloud journey. So I'll be right here in the background to help you, and yes, enjoy your next 12 weeks. Thanks.
Thank you. Means that's a very humble way of introducing Parna, and we are so proud to have you here. And it's always good to switch side, isn't it? Like you in the first batch, you were joining us as attendee, and now you would be delivering lots of sessions. So thanks everyone. And let me now quickly get to the point. I would keep our cameras on a very small profile, so you could have the most section for available for your learning. So I'll remove my camera feed also so that you could focus more on the content side. So this is batch 04, week 1, 8th July 2023. And what we are going to discuss about, let me talk a little bit on the program side first, that because a lot of people are new. So BESA is a program which is called Become a Solution Architect, and we have put a website which is probably you have linked to, and you should be able to get information about it, why this program is, why we are doing this, what kind of things you could do. Core team, myself, James is there, Jamila, Parna is here, and Prasad is here. But James and Jamila would be joining probably into the later stages. And then we have extended team who are helping us with other things like there is Abhijit, Kasipe, and Ferdi Razwan. They are all helping us. Plus, we are doing this because we are passionate about mentoring, as Prasad said, and we want to give back to community. I always say that while we check our own journey, we find that a lot of people helped us directly, indirectly, and we just want to contribute to that great community which is there, which I feel is very, very vibrant and very helpful to everyone who is trying to start with. How we would do this? We would be doing this session every Saturday, 8 a.m. GMT. You could convert the time zone into your own format, and then where the things will happen, this will be happening on YouTube live. So we would be displaying, sorry, broadcasting it on YouTube live. We would be recording this session, and that will be again posted on YouTube. So you should be able to access it afterward. And if we talk about a resource, that would be shared on the BESA website. All the slide which we will be showing you, or all the content or workshop will go about, we would go ahead and put them into YouTube. So you should be able to get them for further access. And then stages, there are two stages in this program. 8 week, we already figured out what we want to discuss, but we have kept some room on the last session to discuss any specific topics you have in mind. So we should be able to handle that too. And stage 2, behavioral track, we are figuring out what are the best ways to give you the required knowledge, and then what can be done to improve your behavioral aspect of becoming a solution architect. So we will be discussing these programs as we move forward. Keep your questions coming. We are monitoring chat. We will try to respond as many questions as we can, but in case we miss out some of the question, please go ahead and ping us on LinkedIn, and we should be happy to answer those questions. Shouldn't be a problem. There is an email address also you could find on our website, and you can email there too. It may not be very synchronous communication. We check regularly that, but we would be happy to respond it. And in case you ask question, we forgot to respond because of so many messages, don't feel bad, just reply again or ask again. And not intentionally we are ignoring anyone, it may just have happened because of the sheer amount of messages which is going to happen. All right. Now, who is this program targeted toward? So we are focused on technical and behavioral concept. for people who are IT professional and who want to become solution architect. And that is what we are trying to do here, that we want to upskill you for things like certification or give you providing you the interview coaching, so that we should be you should have a better preparation for it. So that's what the intended target audience is. This time we are also including a foundational track, so anyone who is just starting even their IT journey, they should be able to get something out of it. We want to be little clear and setting expectation here, that this is not a job guarantee program. We would try to help as many people as we can, but we are not promising any jobs at the end of the spectrum here. This is not an official AWS program. We are all Amazonians who run this program, but we are doing it as a voluntary basis. And obviously, we had to go through a lot of legal approval before we could start these type of program. Whatever we talk about here are our personal view, and they do not represent AWS or our current or past employer in any shape or form. And in case we discuss some detail and there is update or there is a change happen, always refer to AWS documentation, which is most up to date, which may not be able to follow along all the time. And program is run on a best effort basis. We'll try our best to respond to as much personal information you want to ask or any personal questions you have. But again, we have limitation. We have same time as you, 24 hours. In between, we have to manage our day job, family commitment, and also the community commitment which we are taking here. Now, to give you a glimpses for the people who are just joining this time first time, we have run 3 batches so far, and this is the fourth batch. So welcome all for batch number 4. We had 4,400 plus member which are registered on the BESA LinkedIn group, and that's how we would be communicating to all of you. Then there are subscriber on YouTube that we would recommend everyone to subscribe so that you would not be missing any videos. So currently there are 2,700 plus subscriber and 43,000 plus views happened on YouTube. You can also find previous session recording on our YouTube channel, and there is ton of information available, so check that also. Then 100 plus member regularly joined our live broadcast, which we have done. 60 plus member openly committed on LinkedIn that they have passed certification. They were kind enough to send information saying that, hey, it is the BESA program who helped us in some shape or form. Then 40 members were mentored one to one. Obviously, this is not something we could do for everyone, but depending on, let's say you have an interview lined up of any of the FANG companies, or you are thinking to apply for something, or you have a very specific question you think we could answer, so feel free and we should be able to help you out. But again, it is limited in our own capacity. We put some dedicated time for it, but you should be able to use these things. We also invite guest speaker, and they range from people who have been successful into cloud, maybe hiring manager, maybe recruiter in Amazon, maybe people who shortlist resume, what they do, those type of things we also include. So there would be a lot of guest speaker this time also coming up. And though it is a very small number, but where we are very proud of it, we were able to help 6 people get a job in AWS. I know it's a very small number, but AWS jobs are not easy. A lot of preparation. We could not mention here how many were unsuccessful, but there was a number which is very long. But yeah, we are trying to help as many as we can help. Right. So that is about become a solutions architect. This program is a 12-week program, 8 weeks of technical track and 4 weeks of behavioral track. What would happen in this coming 8 weeks, which is we call technical track? There would be 40 minutes of technical track fundamentals. So I will focus purely on the fundamental side, and we would be looking for how things work and the basics. We will then talk about a specialty track. We did a poll on the LinkedIn group, and we realized that people are more interested in security. There was a close match between security and migration. So maybe in next batch, we would include migration track. This batch, we will go with security track because it got the most vote. So we'll talk about security. And then we would be also giving you an idea on what is the day-to-day life of an Amazonian, like what is the job of a technical architect, what is done by a technical trainer, what is the job of a software developer. So maybe you have a different inclination, or you have a different aspiration to become something else rather than solution architect. So we'll try to give you a taste of various profiles in technical role available in AWS, and probably you could relate to one or more of the roles, and then you can start preparing towards it. So this is what 8 weeks of technical track has requirement. uh, Then talking about today's session, so today I would be focusing on very foundational track, which is called data center. We all talk about data center, so let's formalize that learning. Let's understand some basic foundational stuff, which will help you in every component of your journey. Then we will talk about security in AWS. This will be setting up the stage, but is what is security track? Shiva, we will be talking about that. So I'll explain you when we reach to that point that what we are going to cover into security track, what all topics we would be discussing. So we'll talk about that. Then Bijit, who is a global engagement manager for AWS, he would come and share his journey, and we'll talk about that. What is his day-to-day responsibility? What things they do on a day-to-day basis? So you will get a more idea on that. What could be job of a engagement manager in AWS, and we will keep on adding more people into this profile every new week. So that's all. Let me start with the technical discussion now. That what is a data center, right? We all know about data center, but let's formalize that learning so that you should be able to identify that what is available in data center, what are the different aspects associated with it, and how you could best use this data center. Now, a formal definition which I have picked up on Amazon website says that data center is a physical location that is running all the infrastructure required to run your IT application, such as server, data storage, drivers, and network equipment. All of this put together into a building. That is what we call data center. Now, data center could be simply for maybe if I'm a small company, for me, a data center could be just one single rack we have kept into corner of the office. Or if it is a company like Amazon, it could be a huge building or maybe set of multiple buildings, which will be helping you to get your applications running. So all the infrastructure required to run your IT application could be server, could be storage, could be networking equipment, could be security mechanism. That is all we put together, and that's what we call a data center. Now, obviously, there are some bifurcation on that, and this bifurcation, which I have listed here, is purely based on ownership of the data center, that who owns this particular data center. Let's talk about that ownership. So, ownership wise, then again, it is not a technical bifurcation. This is a ownership bifurcation. You would find enterprise data center. I'll explain about each of them in one by one basis. Then we have managed services data center. You may find co-location data center, or they are called colo, and you may find cloud data centers. So we'll talk about each of them, that how they may differentiate and what responsibility would change from you to the service provider, and when one could be useful than the other. So let's talk about it. Enterprise data center is the very basic form of a data center. I am a company, I want to run some application. It could be my web server, it could be my internal payroll application, and I need a place to run that application. So this is basically a private facility that is owned by an individual company. They would be probably hosted in the campus of that company, corporate campus, maybe in a basement, maybe into a secluded area. That is where this will be running. And as it is your own personal data center or enterprise data center, you set up the data center, manage its ongoing operation, and you maintain, purchase the equipment. Obviously, it is a lengthy cycle. You may need to follow a lot of regulation of power and cooling and all the other stuff. But yeah, this is a common approach which company used to follow, and some company may still be following it because of the local requirement to keep data on a local premises. Let's say I am a hospital, and then probably I want to keep some data of the patient always available in local premises rather than waiting for internet connection to get established. So that type of thing, where we may have a lot of enterprise data center which may still be present in some shape or form within your environment. So those are enterprise data center. So that is good, but not every company may be interested to maintain these infrastructure. So then some companies saw a business opportunity, and they started offering data centers as a service, which we call managed services data center. So this data center is managed by a third party that leases the equipment and the infrastructure. I'm a company and I need just 5 servers to run my application. Should I set up a whole data center for 5 servers? Probably that should not be done. So what I would do, I would go to any of these companies like managed service data center, tell them my requirement and say, I am looking for 5 server with this much of capacity, that much of storage. And now I would have my data center equipment leased to me. I am renting those equipment, the physical equipment. I would have access to to get to into remote console of them. I may install my software and applications on it, and I may be using it for my own purpose. So in the whole plethora of services which are available or servers we are available, we would select what is making sense to my business. Obviously, I should be able to lease it for a short period or a longer period depending on how these services are offered. So if you heard about companies like Rackspace, it is in a way is doing the same thing. You could go to them, you could ask for a physical server, you could ask for a virtual server from them, and you lease those server depending on the pricing agreements they have, and based on that you could run your services. But you are leasing equipment rather than buying equipment from them. Those are called managed service data center, right? If you have any questions, keep them coming. If there is a technical question, I would be looking into check and answer those questions. If it is a logistics question like links and all, so Parna is obviously helping you here. So please put those questions also into chat. Now, talking about managed service data center, let's talk about now co-location data center. So maybe here I may not have flexibility. Let's say this service provider here, let's say Rackspace, is giving me a server which can have maximum up to 16 CPUs. Just give me an example. What if I need a server which requires 24 CPU? What if they do not have that kind of facility available? So what I could do in kind of these cases, I could look for a co-location provider, or we call them co-location data center, or just a short form is called colo. I may not be renting out equipment from them. So let's say this is a huge data center building, or the floor we call, we rent out a wide space on that. White space is a very specific word we use for these type of environment. So what we do here, we may get, okay, I need an area of 5 meter by 5 meter, and in that would be cages, so that only my physical presence, I can only physically enter into it. There is a security around it, and in that I would set up my own equipment. I would bring my own rack, I would bring my own servers and set it up as per my own requirement. So this is called co-location data center. So in this case, you are not renting out the equipment, you are renting out a space within a big data center where you would be hosting your own services and your own hardware based on your own requirement. That should not be a problem. So that's how we would be having a co-location data center. You would still depend on data center service provider. So if this is a building in which I am renting a space, then I would still be leveraging the internet connectivity of them. I would still be leveraging the physical security they provide to me. I may still be leveraging the cooling and power services they provide to me. That's all we would be doing into co-location data centers also. So I hope this thing is clear that what is a co-location data center, right? Now, what else? The last type of data center which most of the time you would hear about in AWS world is we call cloud data center. So in this form of data center, data and applications are hosted by public cloud providers such as AWS, Azure, Google. These companies have set up hundreds of data center all over world in different location, different physical locations, and that is where we would be utilizing these services. What will be connectivity in colo? Good question. So colo connectivity will depend on the service provider. So let's say you enter into this colo facility. Once you are looking for that facility, let's say there is a facility one, there is a facility two, they would say, we charge you X amount of dollar here, and you will get a 10 Gbps internet connectivity, but it is a single 10 Gbps. This is not redundant. Another data center provider may say, we will charge you more money, we will still give you 10 Gbps, but we will be giving you a redundant connection, one from one internet service provider and another from another internet service provider. So that can happen, and based on that, you would be able to leverage any data center. So connectivity, cooling, fire suppression, security, it will be all maintained by the co-location provider, and you would just use those facility. So it depends what they are offering. Obviously there would be different service tier. Maybe the same data center will say, if you are looking for standard connection, you may utilize X amount of dollar. If you want a redundant connection, we will charge you a little bit extra on that. So that will be all possible there. Would it be like MPLS? Could be, it depends. MPLS can also be one part of it, but there are other options available to provide you the connectivity. So most of these things are implemented on a software level nowadays. So they may have a SLA, service level agreement, and they will promise you a specific bandwidth or a specific resources for your application. So that's what a co-location data center is. Now, uh, Now we have cloud data center. In this form of data center, data and application are hosted by public provider. In a cloud data center, you rent both space and infrastructure. So you are worrying about nothing. You say I need one server or 10 server, and cloud service provider would have that much capacity available to provide you with the required application. Right. So these are just some basic ownership based data center bifurcation. Let's now focus on little bit on the different tiers we have. Is there any PDF or reading doc available for essay prep? We have a lot of resources available. So check our previous channels. There are a lot of links available on the previous sections. So you should be able to get that data from there. Now we are coming to data center tiers here. What we mean by this data center tier. So every data center promises you some type of services and some redundancy. So if I am having a data center which claims that we are a tier one data center provider, Tier 1 is a basic capacity which is given to you. If you are looking for better solutions or better redundancy and capacity, Tier 2 type of data center would be there. Then we have Tier 3, which is concurrently maintained. And then we have Tier 4, which is giving you fault tolerance. And idea here is that these tier have some SLA or service level agreement associated with that. So if somebody is claiming that we are a Tier 3 service provider for a data center, what does it mean? That they would guarantee you 99.98% of the uptime, and if you quantify it, maximum downtime they would have will be 1.6 hours in a year or less than that. So that is how the SLAs are governing those data center. And it's not just claiming, they have to prove to different authorities to be certified as a tier 3 or tier 4 data center that they have redundant power supply, redundant internet connection, required temperature, required cooling within a data center. So you should be able to get all this information on that. How a data center is different from a managed data center? See, managed data center is allowing you to rent hardware. Here you are not renting hardware in cloud service providers. Cloud service provider will be giving you required services and you use them. In managed, you maintain those server, you install operating system on those server, you maintain those server. In this case, we would not be having that. Maybe we will be utilizing things like uh, cloud data center in which they give you abstracted services. Like if I talk about AWS gives you a service called RDS, relational database service, and then you would be always just deploying that database without worrying about the backend. If it was a managed data center, you would be given a physical box or you would be given a virtual machine, and on that you would be maintaining its availability and all this component. That's how it would be maintained, right? So I hope that answers your question. Uh, just wondering if that is about SD-WAN. So let me check what the question was. That fits in the concept. SD-WAN may fit in, but it is mostly not the whole data center specific thing. It would be a customer specific thing. So what would happen in those kind of cases? Let's say I am a customer of a data center and I want a connectivity to be established. So in that cases, I may have SD-WAN implemented, but SD-WAN would be a service provided by data center, but probably it would be along with a traditional internet connectivity which is provided by the data center. So it may be an additional service which will be there, right? Now, you could get more detail on the link. I would be sharing this link into the chat. So you should have, sorry, into the resources. So you should be able to access all these things. Now, what is inside a data center on these big buildings, what they contain inside? So obviously there is a physical things like concrete and steel construction. There is a lot of air conditioning required for it. There would be a lot of heat being produced. So that's why they would be using heat exchanger. And probably you won't see people opening up a lot of data center into Sahara or maybe in Middle East Gulf. Why? Because the temperature is very high and it would require a lot of cooling to be done in that case. But things like places like maybe Switzerland, maybe some places into Norway, they could be best physically suited places to open up data center, because the overall temperature is very low, which will help data center in maintaining the required temperature within their operating infrastructure. There would be obviously server room which will be physically separated by fire redundant doors. There would be generator facility available. There would be UPS unit. There would be networking rack. Maybe people who monitor the data centers, that will be network operations center. Obviously physical security and 24 by 7 cooling units would be also there. So that is what is inside a data center. Now I would be including these graphics into the resources, so you should be able to see these. But the idea is that it is not just IT infrastructure, it contains additional infrastructure to support data center operation. So yes, there is IT infrastructure, what we call server, storage, and networking. And then we have support infrastructure in a data center like power system, then backup generators are there. There is a security, there is a fire suppression system. So all of these would facilitate the whole work. You may have the best IT equipment, but if it is heating up and not able to serve these customer, then it is of no use. So it is not just IT equipment, but you have to also take into consideration support infrastructure. We won't focus more on the support, but we will focus more on the IT infrastructure to give you some detail on that. And then in within that room, if you see this particular section, if you see, this is a elevated floor, so all my cablings and air conditioning pipes would be going beneath the surface here, and then they maintain aisle like that, that at the back end there would be all the exhaust happening from the server, and one aisle would be cold, another would be hot aisle, and there would be extractors who would extract that hot air and move it outside of the data center. And then this aisle here where people are connecting and maybe accessing those location, those are considered as a cold aisle. So cold aisle, hot aisle, these are aisle mentioned or are maintained within a specific data center. And as I was explaining that, hey, this is a floor, and if you see this perforated floor, this is probably the air conditioning from which all the cool air is coming into data center. And then at the top, extractors would be removing that hot air from coming from this equipment. So that's how we move forward. All right. So now let's focus on the server fundamentals, little bit on that, and then if we time permits, we'll talk about storage also. So when we talk about servers, how a server is different from a desktop, because if you look at it, server is also having the same component. It has a processor, it has memory, it has disk. So how a server is physically different from a desktop? So server are created with a more uptime constraint. They are more reliable, they have better performance than a desktop, they have redundant component in them, and they probably would have a scalable architecture so that you could combine multiple server and it can become a cluster of the servers as we move forward. And if I go ahead and try to talk about key differences between them, if it is a traditional PC or a laptop, it has same component like CPU, disk, power supply, but a PC may have one or two processor, whereas server would have multiple processor. In a PC or a laptop, there would be standard memory available, but in server, there would be ECC type of RAM, which is called error correction code. This is a memory which can correct any error which may happen because of electric fault or any faulty component. Disk wise, standard laptop may have SATA disk or SSD type of disk, whereas server may have RAID controller who would help you to manage disk in an efficient manner and provide you redundancy if required. When it comes to network connectivity, you may have a network card in your PC, but in your server, you will probably have fiber optic cable connectors by which these can be having a better bandwidth available to them. And when it comes to power supply, standard PCs or laptop would have one single power supply, whereas server would have multiple power supply as we move forward on that. So this is basic key differences between a PC and a server. I know it could be very basic for some of you, but I wanted to ensure that we cover fundamentals so that your journey would be much more solid and would not have a shaky ground. And that's why we are covering basic fundamental tracks here. And you could check the agenda on BESA website that what all topics we plan to cover. We'll talk about encryption, we will talk about DNS server, we will talk about networking. So that is all coming up. So you would probably have a better understanding of fundamentals. When it comes to server, there are Servers are 100 times louder than a PC. I agree on that, Chitresh. That is exactly true. Yeah, it happens. Now, server form factor means the physical shape or form is tower server. Not a very common approach in data center because of the space constraint they have. Rack server is a very common one, and blade servers are also very common in data center, depending on what type of data center you are running. Probably in enterprise data center, blade servers are very common, but in cloud or maybe into your service provider data center, rack servers are very common. So it looks small in the front as you see here, but it is a huge machine. It has a lot of weight, and then you would be putting those racks, sorry, so server into these rack. These racks have a specific unit, and that number is calculated by U. So there is a 42U rack which you are seeing here. It has 42 slots you could think of. A server which I have, it could be 1U capacity or 2U capacity or 4U or 8U capacity or more than that. So how much physical, so let's say this is my rack, how much space one server would consume, that is called my U capacity unit, which we see here, right? Now, this is another architecture which is called blade server. In blade server, what we have, if you look here, there is a box you could think, and within that box you are inserting the server inside, or these are the blades which we are inserting on that. So this was also approach which customer followed, not very common nowadays because of the cost associated with the blade. But idea of the blade server was, let's say I have 10 servers. Now, why I need the display port in every server? Why I need keyboard connector in every server? That doesn't make sense. So let me take a box. I may have my connectivity, network connectivity, keyboard, mouse, monitor connectivity, maybe my fire suppression connectivity on one single unit. And within that unit, I would keep on adding server. So this is my blades. The chassis is there. And within that chassis, I am adding blades. Now, the challenge here is, if the chassis is from one vendor, let's say this chassis is coming from HP, the blades you have to buy, that also has to come from HP. And that's why some customer may not want to get into a vendor lock-in, and that's why they may prefer approach of rack server rather than a blade server. So here is a blade server. These are blades which you could use, and blade is again a server, but into a flat form. As you could see, there are connectors of IO USB port, and those would be connecting to a chassis. This is like a overview of it. Here you insert your blades, and at the back end there are power supply, networking module, and from front it would look something like this. And afterward you should be able to add capacity in that by adding more blades. And if you see here, it is one single backend which is powering multiple servers for you, so it is keeping your cost in that. What type of server plays usually in data center? Jay, mostly it is rack server, mostly, but again it can depend from customer to customer. But the rack server have become more common way of connecting your environment, because see, if this chassis fails, all my 8 servers running inside are down, right? If one rack fails or one rack server fails, only that server is down. So that's how we are trying to keep the footprint of failure as small as possible. But this can become cost effective on longer run. Like if you have all 8 blades populated, then probably it would be cost effective. But if you buy a chassis and only add 2 blades in that, then maybe it will be costing you too much money. So rack server has become like a de facto standard in most data centers. Right. You do not see these servers on a regular basis. I'm just making you aware so that you know the fundamentals, and we will be then building on these fundamentals as we move forward. Right. Now, I won't be connecting to these server physically or taking my laptop or a monitor and connect it there and sit into that cold place and then monitor all the things. What we will be doing, we would be using some remote desktop, remote management software. Very common one is this, which is called HP ILO, integrated lights out. So this is a browser based interface. Your server have a specific card which is called ILO card or ILO connector. You connect a network cable on that, and afterward That network cable would allow you to access the physical infrastructure of the server. Like here, I could see the power supply. This is even before you have installed any operating system. I want to access the physical component of that particular infrastructure. So maybe I want to run some diagnostic on that. Maybe I want to mount a optical drive so that I could connect and boot that server. Maybe I want to call HP for some support. Maybe I want to shut down some power bay. So all this information will be displayed to you into a remote management software. You do not need to have a physical presence within data center. Everything is once racked and stacked. You would never be probably stepping into that unless you have to suppress a fire. Otherwise you would maintain everything from your remote management software. So this is from HP. Similarly, Dell have their own server management software, which is called iDRAC, integrated Dell remote access controller. And again, things you could do from here, like power on off the server, launch a viewer of that screen, maybe update the firmware of it, maybe check fan status, maybe check temperature status. So all these physical components would be available to you directly from the server in browser interface. You do not have to go into different physical location to access your servers, right? So that was a basic idea on what a data center is and what the server platforms are. I do not have full time to cover everything, but in the section, in the notes, I would also include details about the storage network. So storage fundamentals, how storage works, what are the component associated with that, how your centralized storage is, what is a SAN component. I would include all these things in that environment. Should not be a problem, right? So just curious, if the machine gets switched off, is physical access required to boot it again? Answer is no. Vishal, there is something called a feature called Wake on LAN, WOL. So those physical server are listening. So they are into a very small power consumption mode, and I send a request over network. That network card detects that it is a power on request. It talks to the power supply of the server and brings my server on. So I do not have to physically walk up to a server to start or stop it. Shouldn't be a problem on that. I guess AWS uses Cisco software in their data center. Is that? I doubt that, Prabhat. When AWS started their networking creation, they checked a lot of vendor, but none of them could give the scale and the performance they were looking for, or the isolation look for it. So networking equipment in AWS is created ground up. Everything has been indigenously built, because if you see, these are not the common standard you find in network world. We use, we have concept of subnet, we have concept of security group, we have concept of network ACL. So I don't think that they use Cisco, but again, who knows? That is not something which I physically know about, but I highly doubt that they are using a vendor specific component within their environment, because that would lock them down to one single vendor, and obviously that would be a lot of physical as well as the operational challenges in those kind of things. So hopefully that gives you a better idea on what all these things are. And I do not have time to cover everything, but I would include this slide so that you could go through that and get an idea on how your storage is created and how it is presented to the server of your choice and how you could access these services, right? So how do you access notes? What you would be doing, we will be sharing these onto resources space, so you will be able to get that. How does AWS guess the capacity need for their customer? I would say a lot of machine learning, Prashant. We are running data center from long time. So maybe there is a machine learning and little bit of analytics which is used to guess the capacity for data center. What exactly, where exactly firewall present? It depends. Firewall may be present in different places. It may be present on perimeter layer, it may be present on a software component, so it can be different places. I don't expect that there would be only one firewall for the whole data center. Even within your racks, you may have virtual firewall deployed, or within your server between virtual machines also you could have firewall deployed. So that should not be a problem at all on that case. All right. So thanks everyone. Hope everyone is enjoying and learning something new. Probably for a lot of you, it was a quick refresher of what we had, what you already knew. But we will now take a 5 minute break, and afterward we will go for the security track. So stay tuned. Maybe grab some water, maybe refill your water bottle, and we will then start again. I will put a 5 minute timer and I'll speak to you again. Thank you.